How would it feel to know the secrets of the universe and understand the inner workings of our surroundings? To finally know everything, the God formula. As you may or may not know, Einstein's general theory of relativity tackles gravity and the curvature of space. For example, let's say that this is the fabric of space, right? Like a trampoline. Now, if you were to put something heavy on it, notice how the fabric around it curves due to its weight and mass. And when you put something or another ball next to it, it starts following the curvature of that space, which explains gravity in Einstein's general theory of relativity. This theory is very opposite to quantum mechanics that does not have gravity because you're observing things at the smallest perspective, so small that gravity might not be observed. Scientists have tried putting gravitons on quantum mechanics and string theory that contains 11 dimensions and describes the particle vibration to vibrate at different frequencies to determine the characteristic of a particle. So, for example, you have a guitar. The very top string is very thick, right? And when you pluck it, it vibrates at a lower frequency or a different frequency compared to the rest of the strings because it vibrates a different note from the others. Now, this is supposedly what string theory is all about. It's just a string for particles under subatomic particles, and it always particles under subatomic particles vibrate at different frequencies, so you could know whether the particle will be solid, liquid, or different kinds of elements. So basically, the vibration or the frequency of that string determines the characteristics that it will hold. And these are both opposites because in Einstein's general theory of relativity, everything is relative and it describes the curvature of space, which is gravity. But in quantum mechanics, there is no such thing as gravity. And even if they use string theory to explain this phenomena, it tackles 11 dimensions, which is nearly impossible to visualize and wrap our heads around. But what if I tell you that I found the answer to the God formula? Let's go back to grade 12 or basic chemistry, general chemistry, right? There's this thing called IMFA, intermolecular force of attraction, and you can basically break this with kinetic energy. Basically, heat or any form of kinetic energy might break the IMFA bond. Um, just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. Let's say that we have a coil of copper. That coil of copper um, will serve as our tunnel for our nail. So basically, if you put a nail inside of that copper coil and you put a voltage on either side of it or a battery connecting to the positive and negative charge, it generates an electromagnetic field, right? So the more heat placed on materials like metal makes it magnetic, right? So this is actually very related to the other theory that explains why Earth has a gravitational pull, or why any planet has a gravitational pull. This is due to convection, as they say. Convection is the heat from the Earth's core, right? The Earth's core has is very hot. It's so hot. It's almost as hot as the sun, I think. And that heat travels out and sort of resembles the coil and the nail we had earlier, which generates the electromagnetic field of the world and the gravitational pull. That also explains why the sun, um, aside from it being big in mass, which is also related to gravity, it's very hot, which means more kinetic energy, which means more gravitational pull. I hope you're still with me. But going back to the kinetic energy and gravity, I feel like gravity stems from kinetic energy of the particles. So the vibration of the string earlier from string theory, that's actually just kinetic energy, right? It's being replayed. It's just kinetic energy circling on itself. And that kinetic energy, even if it's a very, very small part of the particle, that kinetic energy combined with this kinetic energy of this particle next to it, and the particle next to that, and the particle next to that, it generates enough kinetic energy to produce just the slightest bit of gravitational pull. Like everyone knows, gravitational pull is one of the weakest forces in nature. But if you have a really big object like a planet, like Earth, all of these atoms, all of this mass, the amount of atoms that make up the Earth is enough to generate a great gravitational pull. Aside from that, it has a very hot core inside that adds even more kinetic energy, so it generates even more gravitational pull. And that also explains why the moon has a gravitational pull, even if it's not too big, but it's big enough to have enough atoms that can be summed up to have a great kinetic energy and to create your electromagnetic or your gravitational fields. So I believe that Einstein's general theory of relativity and quantum mechanics can be connected through maybe putting kinetic energy into account, the kinetic energy of the particles, which may give us the God formula. Just a disclaimer, I don't know, it's too late for a disclaimer, but this might sound like bullshit from a grade 12 student, but I mean, it probably is bullshit, but it's what I think. It's my theory. So if you don't like it, if you think there's a lot of plot holes in it, I don't really care. I'm just putting it out there here with this video, just in case it actually makes sense. But if it doesn't, then I got nothing to lose. So thanks for watching.